You're listening to Mad Radio. Mad Radio. Mad Radio. Make a difference.
Quick, me lads! Hoist the rigging! Aye, Captain! Splice the main brace! Batten down the hatches! Aye, Captain! I'm going below deck to get the show started. And now, he's got a worse attitude than Ravishing Rick Rude. It's the rotund ringmaster of ridiculousness, Brandon McCarty.
Well, thank you, Petey. I don't know where you come up with this stuff. Hey, welcome in, all you scallywags, you swashbucklers, you landlubbers, hornswogglers, and salty togs, to the Peg Leg Podcast, a show where we delve into the lives of fellow pirates and learn a bit more about the unsung heroes among us all. Arr! This week we travel to the Library and Learning Center to speak with an individual who has a BA in English from CSU. She also has her master's in English literature from Arizona State and a master's of Library and Information Science from San Jose State. Man, that's awesome. She was the president of the Friends of the Modesto Library from 2008 to 2010. In 2015, she published her first collection of poems titled Alkali Sink, and that was by 16 Rivers Press. In 2016, she was a finalist for the Northern California Book Award in Poetry. She was appointed Poet Laureate by the city of Modesto in June of 2016. Dust Bowl Venus was her second publication in 2021. She was appointed to the Stanislaus County Library Advisory Board in June of 2021. Now, let's talk about her time at MJC. She's been a faculty librarian on the West Campus since the fall of 2017. Before that, she managed the Tracy Library and was a librarian for the Institute of Technology in Modesto. And speaking of her master's, once again, she got it in library science in 2009 after being a part-time English instructor at MJC and operations manager at CentralValleyJobs.com. And we're going to find out some more about that. She is a poet and a mother of a 21-year-old cancer survivor. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the poop deck, Stella Beratlis.
Yay!
I got it right. Yes.
Very good pronunciation.
Woo!
I commend you.
Plus one on that one. So Stella, tell us, if you will, how did you find your way to MJC? Man, you were all over the place here.
I know. I just all over the map. So MJC was really a final, not a final destination, but a destination, a goal for me. When I first started library school in 2007, I thought, I really would love to end up being a librarian at Modesto Junior College. I knew what the librarians did there, and it was very much aligned with my ideals and my personal goals of working in Modesto at an institution that I respect greatly, that I feel has a lot of social value. So, boy, how did I end up at MJC then?
Start from the beginning.
Well, I grew up in Modesto.
Oh, okay. That's
beginning.
a great start.
And not, we moved here from the Bay Area when I was in junior high. So I attended junior high in Modesto, and I graduated from Bayer High School. And when I graduated high school, I really absolutely felt like I needed to leave Modesto because it was tough to be a weirdo kid in the 80s, right? In the early 80s. And so I left and I went to UC Davis And I did not attend MJC as an undergraduate, like a lot of Modesto kids do.
Now, when you say weird, though, we have to preface this a little bit. Are we talking like the punk rock scene?
Well, yeah.
Kind of, or
yeah.
like...
Exactly. I mean, I was
Yeah.
into, my tastes were different for sure. I did not wear Wranglers. And contrary to, my flannel shirt that I'm wearing right now, I did not wear, I wasn't, a cowgirl. And so I think that, there was like a really narrow way to be, I felt, when I was living here. So I wanted to leave to go somewhere I would fit in better. But fast forward, years go by. I ended up dropping out of college when I first went out of high school.
Me too.
Isn't all the best people do?
Yes.
I just really realized, I kind of don't know what I'm doing here in college. So let me just take a break. Let me pause. And I went out into the working world and I worked at Tower Records for 5 years. And that was an amazing job to have in the 80s when you're a person in your 20s.
Now, wait a minute. So did you get the opportunity to, I'm sure that back then they were still doing like signings or big promotion events these things. So
absolutely.
Do you have any stories then you could tell us about some famous people that came through there? Or?
Well, sure. I started out working at the San Francisco Tower Records, which is at that time the only one was in North Beach at Columbus and Bay. And then I transferred to the Sacramento store at 16th and Broadway and worked there for a few years. My best friend, who also worked at Tower, Dan Shepard, was selected to be a manager at a new store opening in the French Quarter in New Orleans.
Oh.
Or I better say Nolans, lest I make everyone mad at me. And so he said, hey, do you want to come with me? And you can be, the manager of the cassette section.
And that was still thriving at that time.
Cassette's thriving at the time. And I was, 22 years old or 20, and I was like, sure, I'll move to New Orleans. I've got a few $100s saved up.
Oh, that should have been plenty.
Oh, it was. I had them. I went and I, got traveler's checks made. I'm just cracking up at this now. And I moved to New Orleans with my friend, and I helped open the new store there. And then I met somebody, fell in love with that person, and he was going to the Tower in Boston. So I decided to go to the Tower in Boston too. And so we opened up a new store in Boston. The relationship didn't last, but I stayed in Boston, and I was the singles buyer for that at that store, which at that time was like the biggest record store in the country. That was before Virgin opened up.
Man.
So it was really exciting. And then I was the rock buyer, and that's the time that CDs started replacing vinyl.
Right.
So
and were they coming in those massive,
big old packages?
Right.
Yeah.
There was a whole bunch of cardboard that was used,
cardboard, and then the big annoying plastic that cut you up.
Right.
Yeah. So Tower Records was in expansion mode at that time, and the manager of the Boston store came to a bunch of us who were running departments and said, Tower's opening a bunch of stores in the DC area and in Cambridge and kind of all around the East Coast, and you guys are going to be the kind of the crew that is going to get tapped to be managers at those stores. So just want to give you a heads up, be prepared for that, to be asked. And then I had this like really, after I heard that news, I had this really weird dark night of the soul that I thought like, oh my God, this is like a crossroads in my life. Am I going to continue and work in a record store, as a manager of a retail business? Or am I going to take this opportunity to go back to college and finish up my degree, get my English degree, and then just kind of do what I thought I was supposed to do all along?
Right.
And so I did decide to quit Tower Records, and I moved back to Modesto and I lived with my parents, and I got my, I went to Stan State and finished up my degree in English. So yeah, I'm trying to think of people that I met. There were some mishaps with in-store signings. There's this musician who's an indie kind of guy, but he's still out there making music. His name is Robin Hitchcock. He was signed to A&M Records after being like an import kind of guy. He was on his first big tour in America, and the Boston Tower was one of the stores where he was doing an in-store signing. And so he came down to the store early, and we went down to the manager's office, which was the green room, and the manager wasn't there at the time. He had something else that he had to do, but he knew we were using his office as the place to kind of, welcome Robin to the store.
Sure.
And Robin was very hyper. And he sees all of these posters on my manager's wall of his office, signed posters by, Little Feat, Brian Ferry and Roxy Music and all sorts of, this was a very valued signed poster collection. Robin Hitchcock, I don't know how he had a Sharpie in his hand suddenly.
Well,
but do you know where this is going?
Well, I have an idea.
He said, "Oh, Brian Ferry, I know him. I'm going to sign my name on this poster too," or something like that. And he proceeded to write, on the posters, more than one poster. And the other store personnel and I who were there at the time, we were sort of dumbfounded, like, is this really happening? Like, oh, crap. Our manager is going to, he's going to kill him, and he's going to kill us too, because we didn't prevent this from happening. So anyway, it was very awkward. Robin Hitchcock went upstairs and sat at his little table, and there was a line of people there getting their records signed by him and CDs. And then I see my manager also join the line, and he's got these posters rolled up in his hand. And he's the last person in line. He waits to the end, and he walks up at the very end. And Robin Hitchcock doesn't know what the store manager looks like because he hadn't met him yet. And so our manager, Greg, takes the posters and kind of unfurls them angrily in front of Robin. And I don't remember the exact language that he used, but he said something like, what is this? Can I swear on this podcast? Okay, I won't do it. But anyway, it was, he cursed. He said a cuss word.
He was not happy.
He was very unhappy. And it was one of these awkward, horrible things. And then he was kind of banned. We never carried his music in our stores anymore. And I don't know if that was chain wide or if that was just the stores that this manager managed. Recently, Robin Hitchcock on Facebook actually wrote a post about this with his recollection of that infamous incident.
That many years later.
Yeah, because,
wow.
All the people that worked at the Tower Records in Boston, except for me, ended up that guy's a jerk. We can't believe he did that. He didn't respect the property of our manager or the sacred poster collection. Anyway, so that was just a funny thing that, if you're an independent music nerd, you know who Robin Hitchcock is, and this is, this was just an awkward and cringy thing that happened. Other people that we met, Depeche Mode did an in-store at my Tower Records in Boston, and because of my music snobbery, I was like, nah, I'm not going to meet those guys. I don't want them to think that, that I think they're good or something.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that's the kind of person I was, that sort of snooty indie music, you're not punk rock enough for me.
Once they get too popular,
yeah, they're persona non grata. Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I did end up leaving Tower because I thought Robin Hitchcock, later that night at dinner after that incident, I told him, like, I'm thinking about going back to school and finishing my English degree. And he's like, I think that's a fabulous idea. I really encourage you to do that because the, record stores, anyone can do that. Anyway, thanks a lot, Robin Hitchcock.
So you're back in Modesto.
So after a while, so I'm back. I come back to college, and I finish my degree. And this time, I'm super into school, and I'm excelling. And I won an award for like the best English student at CSU Stanislaus. And then I decided to go to grad school, and I went to Arizona and did that. And then I moved back to Modesto, and I started teaching part-time English at MJC because I had my master's degree. And Paul Newman was the dean of the Literature and Language Arts Division at the time. And in 1995 and 96, you could just walk in with your resume and say, look, I just got my master's in this subject, and the dean would offer you a section to teach. I didn't have to do a teaching demonstration.
Whoa.
I was like, are you sure you want to? Because I don't know how to teach. I don't know how to teach, but I think I could be good at it.
Right.
So that's how I started teaching English at Modesto Junior College. And, of course, things changed after that. Later on, I ended up leaving because I needed a full-time job. And then I came back later on in the 2000s, and that's when I had to prove that I knew what I was doing. So I had to do a teaching demonstration in front of a panel of interviewers, and it went well. So fast forward, a few more years, I've got my degree in library and information science, and that's what you need in order to be a librarian. So I applied to be a librarian a couple of times, and the second time I was hired in 2017.
Man,
I know, huh? It's a lot. It's a twisted, weird story. I know.
no, it's all good stuff. It really is.
It's good, but I definitely do not have the kind of traditional path of an academic, and I'm really aware of that when I talk to other people that are like teaching English, for example.
But just think about how well-rounded you are.
Well, I feel like I'm very well-rounded, but also
Right.
I'm very older than a lot of people as well. I've had more years to become well-rounded.
She just turned 40. Don't let her fool you.
I wish.
So, what are some of your hobbies outside of work?
Oh, I like to buy records still. I'm a kind of a vinyl nerd. So I buy records online. I go to Mad Monk / Rasputin's on Sisk Road. Whenever I'm in Fresno, there's a couple of record stores that I hit. Same thing with LA. There's some stores that I love to just check out. So I do that.
Now, how dedicated to the vinyl are you? Are you taking these older albums and making sure that they're like cleaned properly and all that stuff?
I'm
and,
really
no?
sloppy about it. Yeah,
Oh,
I know.
come on.
I have friends that are very like, you should try the glue method to clean the records,
Right. To get all of the dust out. And
No,
everything.
I'm really like, I just like the mute. I mean, I'm not really, I'm not an audiophile.
Okay.
See, that's the thing.
I was going to ask you about the you being a purist then. Like, do you have like a really nice turntable and then,
I do not.
the big bookshelf speaker, the dishwasher speakers, they're massive and you get all of the nice warm tones out
I
of
have hand-me-down things that people
Well,
were
that's
getting rid
fine,
of.
too.
I like that. I mean, I really like that sort of garage band aspect of rock and roll, and I try to. That's my ethos right there. A friend of mine gave me an old turntable that he was getting rid of, so my turntable is like from the 70s, and it's great actually. It works just fine. And I do have a new receiver though, because my old one finally broke. So, but yeah, and my speakers, a friend of mine gave me some speakers that are just little bookshelf speakers that work just fine. And recently I did my mom gave me the old Bose 901s that they used to have, that she and my stepdad had in their home. Yeah, so I've been right now. My big project is I have to put my records in order. I have to put them in alphabetical order, and I'm deciding if I need to divvy up by genre. Like, do I put the country records separately from, or do I just file everything in alphabetical order? So it's a little problematic. I've had some mishaps, and I have to start over again.
It just depends on how ADD you are, I guess, right?
This is true.
Or
yeah.
Or not ADD,
I might
but
be a little ADD actually.
Right. Well,
I might
no,
be a little bit.
no, the other term. Oh my gosh,
right.
which
You're
I'm
thinking of
both.
OCD.
OCD, that too. I'm both actually.
I just want things to be easy to find. I want them to be easy for me to find. And usually, like, my 20s self would just have records in a pile on the floor. And I knew where things were somehow. But now the 2023 me actually wants to have a little bit more order.
Nice. So any other hobbies then?
Oh, hobbies. So music, records, poetry is actually a gigantic hobby of mine. I don't know. It's maybe more than a hobby.
Where do you pull a lot of inspiration from?
Oh, living in the Central Valley, weird stuff that I see every day, kind of mundane things that have some beauty in them if you think about them a certain way. Pull inspiration from the geography of the place.
Sure.
In fact, Alkali Sink, that title of my first collection, comes from an exhibit at the Great Valley Museum. And I know you just mentioned Arnold Chavez,
yes.
Who is the director of the Great Valley Museum. But when the museum was still at the corner of College and Stoddard?
Yes.
I used to take my daughter there all the time when she was a little girl, and I loved this one big diorama that had like a coyote in it, or a fox. I can't remember now. I think it was a coyote. And it was the Alkali Sink exhibit. And so when I was looking for a title for my collection of poems, I was like, oh, Alkali Sink. That's it. That's going to be it. The landscape, the valley, kind of the challenge to survive in a place. I'm thinking about, like, from the perspective of like flora and fauna, right? Like, we've got a valley that is not naturally well irrigated and has been transformed by agriculture. And so when I'm thinking about I'm thinking specifically about certain places where the Alkali Sink is a thing, right? The more deserty parts of the valley, and how difficult it is for plants to thrive there. And in order to thrive, they have to adapt a certain way. And I felt like, wow, this is a great metaphor for young Stella living in the Central Valley. And I know that there's a lot of kind of kindred spirits that feel the same way as well. So the landscape, and I like going hiking and doing kind of outdoor nature things as well, which
Sure.
I know doesn't sound very nature-y, does it? I like that outdoor nature stuff, but like, going to Dry Creek and taking my dog for a walk all around my neighborhood and in green spaces. And so those are some of my hobbies. And I'm a mom too, and my daughter lives at home. So we've got this whole, mom-daughter thing going on at home as well. And that's my life in a nutshell.
What is something that you pride yourself in?
Oh, wow. What a question. I'm pretty proud of the fact that I managed to publish a collection of poems in 2015 and get a new job and start a new job in 2017, buy a new house in 2016. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on, and work full time, and then deal with my daughter being diagnosed with cancer in 2017, right when I first started working at Modesto Junior College, and getting her through that. And she survived her cancer and her chemo, and then somehow publishing a book of a second collection of poems that came out in 2021. So I guess I could say what I pride myself in is continuing to do hard work and still find a way to be creative and to express that creativity in the form of publications. So there's not really, what is that? What's a one word that describes all of that?
Well,
I don't know.
I think it's a great exercise in moving forward.
Well, right.
Depending upon,
right.
I mean, no matter what the circumstances are, right?
Yeah.
You still have to live.
Right,
guess,
exactly.
Right?
I know, and I can't say that I was like saying that to myself when I was going through all those things.
No.
I was like, oh my God, how is this? Here's another thing that happened. Oh my God, well, let's just get through it.
And then and yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that's hard, especially when someone comes to you at that time when you're going through all these things to say, oh, well, you know what, this too shall pass.
Right.
Well,
right.
it feels like it's taking forever. When is this
yeah.
going to pass?
Exactly. I know it's true, but that's kind of a good reminder of like, take a step back. You are in this moment and there's a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of that stuff is really hard emotionally and in every other way hard. But this is not going to be like your world forever. Like there's going to, things will get better. Usually they do. I mean, I'm lucky that they did. So
yes.
Yeah.
What is something that motivates you?
Oh, well, lately what's been motivating me is knowing that I'm, and my boyfriend's going to get mad at me for saying this, but knowing that I'm getting older and that I have this, so many decades of I call them the good years. You've got so many good years left, and there's still a lot of stuff that I want to get done. And so that is highly motivating. There's a ton of poems to write. There's stuff to do in our community that I think helps make this place a better place to live, I think, culturally speaking anyway, especially regarding the literary arts. There's a lot to get done. And then I have some things that I want to do for myself that I haven't been able to do yet. Like I've been wanting to do a radio show with the Modesto Peace Life Center has a radio station.
Okay.
And I have inquired. I have been shown how to do it. I've been, they're like ready for me to do it, and I just like haven't done it yet. So I need to turn my focus to that. But then sometimes I just want to chill and kick back and not do anything.
And that's okay too.
And that also motivates me. Like, downtime is very motivating. Like, I need that downtime.
Right. What do you like about the MJC community as a whole?
Oh, I love all the opportunities to collaborate with other people at Modesto Junior College, to present events or just bounce ideas off of people that are interested in the same things I'm interested in. I'm always surprised when I talk to different people in my world who, there's a lot of community people that are doing things out in the community that aren't connected with MJC, for example. And then I talk to people within the MJC community who are doing something that's very similar to what my non-MJC person is doing. And one of my joys is actually like connecting those people and saying, wow, you guys are doing the same kind of thing. Why don't you I think you would like to meet each other and, talk to each other at least and see how you can strengthen your idea by working with somebody, within MJC for the non-MJC person, right? And for the MJC person, how can your idea be taken more widely, like on a larger scale, if you connected with somebody in the community that's not part of MJC? So there's a lot of like little threads, I think, that are all over the place at MJC that can be connected with threads outside of MJC. And that's something. Actually, I'm like kind of hyped up about that. That's
well,
something.
I think that's exactly what we need to be doing, right?
Yeah.
As the community college, we need to
Yes.
be engaging with our
Completely,
community,
yes.
right?
And I think that we're really moving in that direction with some of the initiatives that we're involved in, doing, community problem solving as projects at MJC. But I'm thinking even just, at the level that I'm engaged in, which is poetry in the community. There's so much poetry out in the community, and there's a ton of poets and poetry happening at MJC as well. And it would be a dream to be able to get everybody on board somehow collaborating with each other, or at least publicizing, the MJC things outside of MJC and bringing in new audiences to the college. So I'm working on it.
Well, you already have your hands full. we need others to get involved as well. Where are some of your favorite places to eat?
Oh my goodness.
I know that could be a loaded question,
Whoa.
but
Geez. I'm gonna be one of these weird people that says I love cooking at home after I get my veggies and fruit from the farmer's market. But a place that I used to love to go eat all the time that is closed now is Conchetta's. Where else do I like to go eat? I love to patronize my local Mexican restaurant, which is at the corner of Tully and Coldwell, El
Okay.
Marisquero.
Yes.
Okay. See, this is something I would have needed some time to think about ahead of time. I'm really mad at you for just asking me this question.
Well,
out of the blue.
What do you like to cook at home? Do you have a couple of dishes where you're like, I've nailed this. This is, I'm really happy with the way that I make this particular thing.
Oh yeah, totally. I've been trying to get really good at this Greek dish that's it's called fasolakia, and it's green beans cooked with potatoes and tomatoes. And it sounds kind of gross and pedestrian,
Yes.
but it's so good. It's this magic thing that happens when you put a lot of olive oil inside of vegetables, sauteing onions in olive oil, and then throw some beans in there and potatoes, the right kind of potatoes, Yukon Gold, and then some tomatoes and so fasolakia yani is what that's called. And what else? Yeah, I'm really trying. I kind of am trying to do something like go into my Greek heritage and get good at cooking some Greek things before, while I still have my mom that I can consult with, for example. So spanakopita is another thing that I think I've got that nailed. It's very time intensive, but I found a shortcut. You do not need to cook the spinach, okay? People.
Okay.
And you don't have to use that frozen spinach. It's gross. Use fresh spinach and don't cook it.
And don't cook it.
And
Okay.
don't cook it. It will cook in the
Right.
oven as it's baking. That's how spinach cooks.
There's the tip of the day right there. Perfect.
Oh boy, oh boy. Oh, Brandon, I can't believe you asked me these food things.
Well, this one may not be any better.
Yeah.
If
I'm mad at you already. Preemptively mad.
if you would tell us a funny story or experience that you've had, either professionally or personally.
Well, Brandon, there have been a lot. But
Oh no.
one that popped up is it happened. It was a case of mistaken identity. And it happened last year when I was in Greece with my mom and my daughter and my sister.
Yeah.
And we were all, we were meeting up with a cousin of mine, Dimitri Kartsonaki. And I hadn't, I don't know if I ever met this cousin, or if I did, he was a little boy. So I hadn't seen him as an adult. And we followed each other on Instagram before my trip. So I thought I knew what he looked like. So anyway, we're meeting him at a restaurant, at a cafe, out on the sidewalk, sitting out there. And we're all seated waiting for him to walk up. And so a man walks through the entrance into the little, where the tables were outside, and he looks in our direction, and like as if he were like, oh, like he was recognizing us. So I did like the whole like eyebrow thing, like, are you my cousin? Like telegraphing like through my eyebrows, like, oh, are you but it didn't look like him at all. It was a guy. My cousin didn't have a shaved head. This guy had a shaved head. And my cousin had glasses, but this guy wasn't wearing glasses. But in my mind, somehow, I made it like, okay, so maybe Dimitri shaved his head, and maybe he's not wearing his glasses. Maybe he has contacts. And like, I made him this random man, apparently. And so he walks over to us, and I get up and I hugged him, and I'm all, Yasu Dimitri, and he hugged me back very heartily. And I was like, Mom, then I was like, well, everybody, here's Dimitri. And my mom is staring at him. And she goes, I don't think I know you. And then she starts talking in Greek to him, you're not Dimitri. And he's like, no, I'm not. I'm the maitre d' of the restaurant.
Oh.
So anyway, that was just like, oh my God, I felt so stupid because I like stood up and like hugged him like he was my family member. I embraced him and he hugged me back. That was the weird thing. Like, he didn't think that anything was weird. Like,
did you get a discount on the
No, damn it.
Oh, dang it.
Oh yeah. So anyway, so that was a weird thing that happened. Like I was so embarrassed. And then of course the real cousin comes walking up, and he looks exactly the same way that he looks in his like Instagram profile and stuff like that. And I just felt superbly stupid for that, thinking that this man that didn't look anything like my cousin. But I, like, yep, that's my cousin there. Come on over and meet the fam. Yeah.
Mistaken identity. And that's just an example of what my brain can do.
Maybe that's why I'm a poet. Fiction.
Nice.
I make things up. Oh boy.
Who has been your biggest influence, either personally or professionally?
Oh, that's a great question. So I'm going to give you a weird answer. I'm going to talk about somebody who I've never met before, but who has been influential for me personally in terms of my creativity and continuing to work despite the kind of the demands of just, the regular mom life, right? And that is a woman named Hazel Hauser. Hazel Hauser Spencer, who is she was born in the 1920s and came over to the Central Valley during the Dust Bowl when she was young, and she was a songwriter, and she was a very not just a songwriter, but she was creative in lots of different ways, artistically. And she ended up writing some well-known country songs and that were made famous by other musicians and bands. And so she's inspiring to me and influential in terms of just, sticking with the thing that you do. Just do the work that you love doing and that you're good at. And, in her case, she ended up through her own devices. She was very resourceful. She walked into KTRB radio station and she was like, I write songs, you know. And so being putting yourself out there, I guess, and doing the thing that you do, and don't toil away secretly at the thing that you do, you know, be willing to take some risks. And so she was a creative woman living in the Central Valley, and she had children to take care of, and for a time she was a single mom, as I was, and am still. And so she was really thinking about her life is an inspiration for me. She died in the mid-90s. And I've been kind of fairly obsessed with her just as a person and as a figure, and as a muse for me in my own writing, my own poetry. So that's one person that I can think of. Another person is my mom, who grew up in Greece, and grew up in a large family with 9 brothers and sisters, and she was born during World War II, which was a terrible time to be born in Greece. Greece was occupied by Nazis. And she grew up very poor, and didn't went to the 3rd grade, you know, and somehow she managed to meet my father, who was a Greek American, and she met my dad by writing letters back and forth with him. And I'm skipping the part where I say that she was a maid at a Greek hotel, and my father's sisters and mother were on a Greek vacation, and she was cleaning their room. And they saw her, and they were like, oh, she's a beautiful girl. She would be a really great, you know, wife for the youngest son in the family.
This sounds like a Hallmark movie.
I kid you not. This is what they.
So
this is
the
what
heck?
happened. So they started writing back and forth.
Yeah.
He proposed to her. She said yes. She didn't read English or write English, so she had a friend doing that for her, translating his letters, and also the friend was writing in English.
Boy, I would hope that there wouldn't be any that it wouldn't be
Mistaken identities?
Yeah, misconstrued.
Right.
Right.
I didn't ask you to marry me. What? What? Well, anyway, the whole Beratlis family came from California to Athens, and there was a wedding, and my mom got married, and she moved back. She moved to California, and that was the first time she left her country. And then a year later, I was born. So I guess the part that is, I think, influential for me is the difficult childhood that she had and all the trauma that she experienced, and then for her to be, to survive that. And she and my dad ended up divorcing after 10 years of marriage, and then my mom remarried after a while. And her strength, I guess, and her character, the fact that she is she is, she should just be completely wrecked by the childhood that she had, and she's not. So there's some strength there that I find really admirable. And we have a good relationship, and, I give her a hard time all the time. She needs it.
If you had a free plane ticket to anywhere in the world, where would you go and why?
Ooh, I love that question.
Yes. I redeemed myself.
Well, I love it just because I've decided that I want to travel now, because that's something that I always wanted to do. So last year, my family and I started going to Greece again. and we're going in May again. And last year, after I came back from Greece, I decided that I was going to go travel again in Europe. So I went to France and to England.
Yeah.
Because I have not traveled outside of the United States very much. So if I had a plane ticket right now, I think I wasn't thinking about like my family in Greece or anything like that. I would probably go somewhere to a Southeast Asian country. My mom traveled to Vietnam, and she said it was so wonderful and different from and from European countries that she had been to and other places that she's traveled. But I'm interested in like the music scene, especially like this Cambodian psychedelic music. So I would just love to go there and explore that.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. That's an interesting location.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
Yes. Well, and hopefully, now that we know your musical background, hopefully this question will be somewhat easy.
Please,
Please.
Lord, I'm crossing my fingers.
But if you only had 3 albums that you could listen to for the rest of your life, and only 3, what would they be and why?
Okay. The first one would be the Louvin Brothers' Satan is Real.
Okay. All right.
Why? Because my muse, Hazel Hauser, wrote a bunch of songs that are performed on that record. Also, it's just this really weird, slice of white America, I gotta say, with the country gospel, the brothers singing this ghostly harmony, and and it has one of the best record covers ever. You got to look it up. Satan is Real. There's a devil with a pitchfork poking up through the flames of hell at the Louvin brothers, who are wearing like their nudie suits up above on earth, being pursued by Satan. So anyway, so I love that record. And then probably the second one would be a James Brown record, because I got to balance out that Louvin Brothers with the Godfather of Soul. I'm thinking of the title of the record. I have a greatest hits record that I love that is amazing. I can't think of the title. And the third one might be a jazz or a blues record. And I'm not even going to name any artists right now. I just can't. Lightnin' Hopkins for blues, probably.
Okay.
And for jazz, I might go really weird and spacey. Art Ensemble of Chicago, Albert Eiler. Okay, that's it. That's it. I won't go. I won't keep talking about this.
If you would, Stella, do you have any parting words of encouragement for us?
Encouragement? Oh boy. Sure. I encourage everybody to feel all the emotions that they're feeling deeply. Because if you don't, I think that holding back, this is something that I've been thinking about and working on for myself, holding back on your anger and your, those feelings that you usually squelch because they're too unsavory or whatever. I think that diminishes us overall and makes it harder for us to feel joy. So my parting words, for especially if you're a person that is a creative person and your work is paying attention to things in the world, pay attention to yourself. And get to know yourself really well. And I think that expands our capacity to experience beautiful and wonderful things as well. Not very articulate, I know.
No, those are wonderful, wonderful.
But I mean,
words and
they apply
thoughts.
to everybody. I think everybody can, take something from that. That's therapist Stella talking.
What do I owe you?
It's totally free because it's so crappy.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come over here to do the podcast, to kind of give us a window into your life and your thoughts, and I really appreciate. I really do. I really appreciate you being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been fun, and I hope that I don't know. I have no words of wisdom.
Oh, no, that was perfect.
0 words. Thanks, Brandon.
Well, the winds are picking up and the barnacles are collecting on the bow. Time for us to set sail, me hearties. This episode was brought to you by Nancy Kerrigan's Crutch Rental. Produced by... it's just me. Edited by that laziest sailor I know, Patchy the Parrot. And music by Scuba Steve's Saxophone Section. Hey, if I have not approached you yet to be on the show, look out, because I'm on my way. We always need great guests to come on here and tell us a little bit about themselves. It's a fun time, I promise. And as always, remember to keep your booty close and your sword sharp, lest you find yourself swabbing the deck on the bottom of Davy Jones's locker. Until we meet again.